This small presentation is on climate change. It is a declaration which is being presented formally to our minister, who is responsible for sustainable development, energy, science, and technology. And it is on climate change. It is to be noted that this declaration has been signed by over 2,000 St. Lucians, and it will be presented by the representatives here, who are Virginie Seelys, who is the president of the Caribbean Youth Environment Network, and Kathy Louis, the national advisor of the St. Lucia chapter. So without further ado, I'd like to call on one of the representatives to say a few words on this presentation.
The Caribbean Youth Environmental Network St. Lucia chapter, by extension of the wider Caribbean region, is a non-profitable organization in St. Lucia. It's non-governmental, and we deal a lot with sustainable development, energy, environmental development, especially when it comes to youth. It's a group where youth are the leaders of that group. And we had a declaration where we solicited 10,000 signatures from the St. Lucian populace, asking and telling them that, hey, St. Lucians are aware of what this climate change is about, the effect of climate change, and we need them to take actions, and we need our policymakers to do the same. By so doing, I must say it was a tedious process, because at first we were looking for 10,000, but you know how St. Lucians are. It's not easy to get somebody to sign to a declaration and saying that I need to take action, because the simple things that we do in our pollution deals and affects climate change. And we want, as a youth and the future of tomorrow, to see that this continues, the sensitization of knowing that the different environmental issues that is affecting us. So here today we have come to submit this declaration to you.
I'm happy that the staff of the Ministry of the Public Service are here, because very often when we talk about climate change issues, we only expose the staff of the Ministry of Sustainable Development. And as we've always said, climate change is an issue that affects everyone in St. Lucia, regardless what sector you're in, regardless what age you are. I've often said that climate change doesn't even respect whether you're alive or dead, because one of the impacts of climate change is sea level rise. And most of our cemeteries are located along the coast, and if our seas start to rise, then our dead people who are buried will also be affected as much as our living people. So climate change doesn't respect anyone, regardless of your status. Let me say how pleased I am to, first of all, for the CYEN St. Lucia chapter for the work that it did in putting together this petition. It makes our work in the ministry a lot easier. One of the things I've always said to the staff of the Ministry of Sustainable Development, Energy, Science and Technology is I do not believe that we've really done a good enough job reaching out into the nooks and crannies of St. Lucia, every square mile in this country, to make people understand just how important climate change is to them and their lives. We are a little preoccupied now with issues pertaining to our economy and unemployment, but those are issues that come and go. Climate change will be with us for the rest of our lives, because our climate has gotten warmer, because of a lot of the industrial activity that has taken place in developed countries. We have much more carbon dioxide in our atmosphere than we should have, and that's causing our climate to get warmer. That's causing some of our polar ice caps to melt. That's causing our seas to become more acidic. It's causing our corals to get bleached. It's causing our mangroves to be impacted. Some of the data for the Caribbean is suggesting that we will have as much as a 25% less availability of water in the near future. And we just came out of a very debilitating drought, one of the worst droughts we've had in a long time. Now, if you could think into the future and think of this getting 25% worse, then you could understand what we have to deal with. But it's not just droughts we'll have to deal with. We'll also have to deal with more frequent and intense weather events. So Christmas Eve trough, something that you'd never expect to have bad weather on Christmas Eve long after your hurricane season has ended. Again, that's something that will now become a feature of a new warmer climate, a new changed environment. So the fact that our young people have taken it upon themselves to go out and solicit petitions for this, I think, is extremely commendable. And I just want to tell you, don't be disheartened by the fact that you were not able to get your 10,000 signatories. I think if you do this next year, you will get more signatories, and the more you do it, is the more people become alive to what is going on. And it's a start. It's a very good start. We certainly would like to continue to work with you. I'm very impressed by the work that CYEN is doing, both the St. Lucia chapter and the wider CYEN network. I was in Nairobi, Kenya, a few 2 months ago for the first United Nations Environment Assembly, and CYEN played a very important role at that assembly. And I was very proud when, together with the other youth, they presented a declaration at the plenary, which I think was one of the better declarations made, because it really spoke to the issues that are important to young people. Because when we speak of, again, of a changing climate, many of us probably only have, 30, 40 more years on this planet, but you have a lot longer time on this planet than we do. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we pass on to you a better planet than the one that we received from our parents. But I think we are going down as the first generation to pass on to the next generation a worse planet than the one that we received from our parents. So we have to correct that. So you have a lot more vested in the health of this planet than we do. And the fact that you've joined this cause and you now getting young people like yourselves to understand the importance of climate change, I think, is extremely important. Doing it now is good too, because as Mr. Ale pointed out, next week I'm off to Samoa for the 3rd International Meeting on Small Island Developing States, which will discuss climate change, but a host of other issues. It will discuss all of the matters, all of the things that matter to Small Island Developing States, things like disaster resilience, things like non-communicable diseases, transport, our economic conditions, sustainable economic development. All of these matters will be discussed. And this year, 2014, is the International Year of SIDS. So again, there's good coincidence in what you're doing and everything that's happening around us. In Peru in December, the international community will come together for the 20th Conference of the Parties for the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, where we are supposed to be discussing the new agreement that will govern the way in which we manage greenhouse gas emissions from the year 2020. So everything, I think, is coming together at the right time. And next year, we assess how well we did with the Millennium Development Goals, and we come up with a new set of what we call Sustainable Development Goals. All of that impacts on what you're doing. So I'd like to encourage you to continue the work, broaden it, not just climate change, but really on the wide range of issues that impact on our environment, like biodiversity and all of the other things. And we certainly will work together with you to spread the word out to as many young people as possible. And once our young people know, then their parents will know, and then eventually everybody will know. So thank you for this excellent work, and it is really my pleasure to receive this declaration and petition from you. So thank you.
Caribbean Environment Network Submission, CYEN Submission Declaration on Climate Change. So on behalf of CYEN Submission, I would like to present to you with this declaration signed by the public of Submission, especially the young persons, on issues pertaining to climate change.
Thank you.